Welcome to the 6 Miles to Supper podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Cox, and I've lost over 80 pounds with intermittent fasting 6 days a week, eating whatever I wanted at my meals, taking a cheat day every Sunday, and walking 6 miles a day. And I'm here to help you on your weight loss journey. In today's episode, we're going to talk about winning the mental game of fasting. Now, one thing that's for sure is that weight loss is a mental game, and fasting is certainly a mental game too. And today I'm going to focus on just the fasting, but I could probably do a whole other episode too on weight loss and all the mental games that you have to play. And this is not something that I think is discussed very often. So many times we focus on the actual practical, like don't eat, for this amount of hours, and and some people focus on what to eat. But really what it comes down to a lot of times is this mental game that we play. And if you learn how to play the mental game right, then the practical side comes together. And it's interesting to me because with so many things, in order to succeed, you have to take an action, right? And you have to learn how to figure out how to get yourself to do that action. But fasting is the opposite of that. Fasting is about learning how to not take an action, namely don't eat. That is a non-action. You have to take an action in order to fail at fasting. So it's an interesting thing right off the bat. And so the question is, what is it that makes you break the fast early? What are the things that cause that? And in the vast majority of cases, it's the mental obstacle that comes up, and that's what causes you to eat. Now, the first big obstacle that I think most of us deal with, this was certainly the big one for me, is fear. You're sitting there, it's maybe 11:45, and you had told yourself, I'm not going to eat until 2 o'clock today. And if you're like most of us, you're not really familiar with fasting. You don't have people around you that are fasting on a regular kind of schedule. And so this action seems scary. For me, the big fear was, this is going to mess up my metabolism. I feel hungry now. And if I feel hungry, that means I've already waited too long to eat. And if I've already waited too long to eat, that means my metabolism is going to go into starvation mode. And then I'm never going to lose the weight. And I'm going to make it even harder on myself to lose weight in the future. And that fear can get you to take the action to eat. You're sitting there and if you're thinking, this is hurting my metabolism, I need to go eat, you're going to talk yourself into it and you will go eat. Now, the big question is, how do you get over this fear? And of course, I could say to you all day long, well, I've been doing this for years and it's worked for me. Or I could say, go read some of Dr. Jason Fung's stuff because he has a lot of pro-intermittent fasting literature. Or Dr. Walter Longo, he's done a lot of scientific studies about fasting. But ultimately, I don't know that will really help you get over your fear. In my experience, whenever I've had a fear, something I'm afraid of, all the reading in the world and all the reasoning it out doesn't get me over the fear. Usually, the thing that gets me over the fear is taking action. For example, I used to be really afraid of moths. I don't know where this fear came from, but I just got scared of them. I don't know why. But then eventually that fear of moths also, morphed into butterflies. I'm also scared of those. And it didn't matter that I knew that they can't really hurt you, that they're harmless, they really cannot do anything to you. I just had this irrational fear. I tried reading about butterflies and still, I was just afraid of them. So eventually I got really tired of being afraid of it. And I thought, what am I going to do? Because I've tried learning about it. I've tried reasoning this out. I just can't seem to get over the fear. And I decided instead, I have to actually take action. I have to get myself used to butterflies. And so I took myself down to a butterfly garden and I sat in this room and I let these huge butterflies land on me and flap all around my head, and they were beating their wings against the windows. And by the end of that time, now in that moment, I want to emphasize, I was scared. I was sweating. I was feeling very uncomfortable. It was not a pleasant experience, but yet I walked out of the butterfly house that day, finally feeling free of that fear. And the same thing is true of fasting. Until I face that fear. For me, the fearful one for me with fasting in particular, since I was a woman, was I had heard, oh, you shouldn't really fast for longer than 14 hours if you're a woman. So I got really afraid of fasting for 14 hours or longer. And the only way I found to get over that fear was to just start fasting for longer than 14 hours. And, I pushed it to 15 and then 16. And I was like, wow, I feel really great. And so I'm going to push it even longer. And I just kept doing that. And I got less and less afraid. Every time I pushed that limit a little bit more, I got less afraid of it. So eventually I got down to eating one meal a day, which was scary at first because I thought, oh, I really don't know. Do people do this? And as it turns out, yes, people do this. And there have been tons of people that have done this for millennia. So I really shouldn't worry about it. And then it was funny too, because once I did a 5-day fast, then eating one meal a day, it seemed like nothing at all to even be kind of nervous about. So ultimately, if you're feeling fear, the big way to overcome that mental obstacle is just to do it anyway. Feel the fear, do it anyway. Now, the next big mental hurdle is lack of faith. So again, you're sitting there, it's 11:45, you've said, I'm not going to eat till 2. But then you start thinking about a chicken sandwich. And you start thinking, I'd really like a chicken sandwich. Does it really make a difference if I go ahead and eat that chicken sandwich right now? I mean, I know I said I'd wait till 2, but what difference does it make? Is it really going to help me lose weight if I wait until 2 or if I just eat the sandwich now? And so, as you can see, your lack of faith in the plan starts to convince you to take that action, to eat. And the thing is, in the beginning, there's so much you don't know. You don't know if your chosen window is going to work for you based on your portion sizes and the types of foods you like to eat. There's a lot of uncertainty here. And all that uncertainty can make it really hard to have faith that this will work out in the end, which makes it really easy for your brain to convince you to go ahead and eat because, ultimately, we don't really know, is this going to work? And I think this is also tied in really closely to the idea of instant gratification versus delayed gratification. So instant gratification is easy to have faith in. Like if you have a stack of double stuffed Oreos and a cold glass of whole milk sitting on your table, you know that if you eat that, it's going to be delicious, or at least in my opinion, it is delicious. And you know that, like you've had that before, you know that will be your experience. On the other hand, you don't know if waiting until 2 o'clock to eat that is going to help you get to your weight loss goals. There's a measure of uncertainty in that. So it's much easier to choose that action that provides instant gratification. And it's very difficult to delay gratification because you are taking a bit of a risk. You may delay it and you don't lose weight, or maybe you don't lose as much weight as what you thought you would. So how do you deal with that obstacle? Because this is a difficult one to come up against. So the first thing that really helped me was to still allow myself to have that gratification, whatever it was that I was craving in the fasting window, to have it in the eating window. So for example, if the thing I was craving was Oreos in my fasting window, I let myself have Oreos in the eating window. So then it was less of a mental hurdle to get over, because it was like, okay, yeah, that is delicious and I do really enjoy that and I do want to eat it. But yeah, I can wait, a few hours to eat it. I'll just put it away. If you've got kids in the house and maybe you're afraid that they're going to eat all that before you can get to it, you can make it so that they can't get to it. I would go to that extreme. If that's the thing that's going to make you break the fast early, is you're afraid that your kids will get to it before you do, then put it up high. Make it so that they don't get to it, or just, put your name on it and say, this is mine. And I'm marking my territory right now. I'm not eating it right now, but I will eat it at 2 o'clock. And that's your right as a mother. And I know that maybe that does sound silly to some of you out there, but it helped me. It helped me to know that, okay, yeah, I'm delaying this gratification, but at least I don't have to risk not getting that thing that I'm wanting. I can have it just later. That was super important for me. But still, there's that bigger question, I think, which is, if I take these actions, if I'm consistent with intermittent fasting, will I lose weight? And that's a difficult one to answer, because it really depends on you. It really depends on, are you willing to continue to tweak your plan until you find the thing that works for you? Maybe right now you're at a 16-8 and, you're doing it and you're being consistent, but you're just not getting those results. It's going to require that you change a little something and keep making those tweaks until eventually you get to it. In my experience, if you're the type of person that thinks, yes, intermittent fasting could work for me. I could do that. I can be consistent with it over time. I feel like that works for my personality. It will work if you give it enough chance to work and if you continue to make tweaks as you go along to make sure that it keeps working. So ultimately, to get over a lack of faith, decide to have some faith, to step out in faith and do the thing, and to keep doing it day after day after day until you get to your goal. Now, you may get past the fear and you may get past the lack of faith, but still, maybe it's 11:45 on a random day and you said you're not going to eat until 2 o'clock. But then all of a sudden you're wanting to go eat. You're like, I just want to go eat something. I just want to go get a snack. What's happening? Well, a lot of times what has happened is that your fasting window creates time and space. That time that you used to use to eat in now is just sitting there. And it's this block of time. And so you have time on your hands and you have time to think. And that is not always a pleasant experience. A lot of times what happens is that thing that you've been trying to distract yourself from now is just sitting there before you. And it can be troublesome. It can be really stressful. It might be a situation that you've, been procrastinating on for a long time and you don't want to think about it, but now you have time to think about it. And so your brain is telling you, hey, what we normally do in this situation is we like to go get ourselves a sandwich. But because it's the fasting window, you have to say, okay, I know my brain is telling me that it wants a sandwich, but we have to deal with this differently now because I'm doing intermittent fasting. Now, it gets a little bit tricky here because it really depends on the type of situation that you're dealing with, what the appropriate action is. And what's helpful for me is to first ask myself, is there anything I can do to make the situation better? Even just a tiny thing. If the answer is yes, there is something I can do about it, now is the time to do that action. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a family member who has been diagnosed with something really serious, and there's not really anything you can do for that person. You're not a doctor and you can't do something of that nature. You can't solve that problem, but maybe they live out of state and you could send them a nice little note. You can sit down, take that time that you would have spent eating and sit down and write a nice little note and send it away. Or you might realize, hey, my house is a mess and that's really stressful. Then you can say, okay, well, I'm going to take a little action right now, whereas I normally would take 30 minutes to eat. I'm going to take 30 minutes and clean out this little drawer right here. And I'm just going to throw away the stuff that's junk and I'm going to organize it. Then you've solved a little bit of your problem. But the thing is, there are just going to be some situations in life that you can't do anything about. You just have to accept them. Maybe they're just completely out of your control. It's really about somebody else's life and their choices, and they're not asking for your opinion. And maybe you see what's going on, but there's nothing you can really do about it at this point. You're just going to have to figure out something else to do with your time, not eat, and there's nothing you can do about those situations. So in that case, I think it's fine to just say, okay, I'm going to get busy doing something else. I'm going to distract myself in some other way, not eating, but something else. I find it's really helpful to have a list. Make an actual physical list of things that you would like to do, things that you would like to accomplish, things that you would like to do more of. For example, for me, some of the things on my list are reading, writing, drawing, memorizing scripture, and just, various to-do list items, things that, kind of get pushed by the wayside, but that can still kind of niggle at you. I like to just, write those down. And so in that moment, if you have that list and you're feeling like, oh, I just want to go eat and I don't care that I said I was going to fast, you can say, well, instead of that, I can go and accomplish these things instead. And then I can see, how do I feel? And probably you have enough on your list that could keep you busy until your fasting window closes. Here's one little tip on when you're making your list. Ask yourself, what are some things that I would like to do with my time? Because too often we kind of I think punish ourselves like, oh, we've got so much to do. And we only focus on those things like scrubbing toilets and scrubbing the shower. But this is not meant to punish you. This is really meant to just make your life better. And it's going to be a lot more enticing for you to do the things on your list if you're actually going to enjoy them. So it's fine to have some of those tasks, scrubbing the toilets or whatever, but it's also good to have things that were really going to make your life more enjoyable. Also, make sure that those things on your list are things that you actually can and will do. So for example, like if you think, well, I would love to paint, but you have no paints and you have no canvases, then that doesn't need to be the thing on your list. What needs to be on your list is go buy paint and canvases so that you can paint. And if it so happens that you really can't afford to go buy paints and canvases, then figure out some things that you can do that you already have the supplies on hand and that would serve a similar purpose. So in short, just find ways to fill up your life with things other than food. Now, the last mental hurdle that we're going to discuss is that intermittent fasting is boring. And you may think, well, that's not that difficult to deal with. And what I found is actually it is pretty difficult to deal with over the course of time. Day in, day out, not having, for some of us, not having breakfast and not having lunch. And so it's just supper. That can be kind of a grind. And you can really start to feel yourself thinking like, this is really boring. Like, normally my day was broken up by meals, like I used to have breakfast, I used to have lunch. And so you can start to miss that and you can start to think, this is too boring. There's I need some variety in my life. And I think it is important to listen to that. This is why I'm so glad that I instituted my cheat day, to have one day of just eating whatever meals I wanted. I could have breakfast and lunch and supper and snacks if I wanted. That helped me to just have that variety in my week to say, okay, yeah, it is pretty boring Monday through Saturday, but then Sunday's pretty exciting. And also this is why I let myself have coffee. I have coffee with cream in it, and I drink that throughout the fasting window whenever I want it, which is usually 2 cups a day. Sometimes it's 3 though, and sometimes it's more. I don't have a set rule for myself on coffee, but it gives me variety. It helps intermittent fasting to not be boring. So listen to yourself. If you find yourself saying, oh, this is, I'm fine with all the other stuff, but it's just boring, then allow yourself some variety. And it was also helpful for me to listen to those things like, this is boring. I never get to have breakfast. Okay, well, I can have breakfast for dinner anytime that I want. And then also, of course, is just having my cheat day, a day where I could actually eat breakfast in the morning, was helpful. So those are a couple of things that can help you to not have those feelings of, oh, this is so boring. But also, the thing is about any plan that you do, ultimately, you're going to try to keep this off forever. And so for the rest of your life, you're probably going to be doing some version of your plan. Like for me, I still do intermittent fasting. Maybe it looks a little different on different days. I'm not like strict OMAD 6 days a week anymore. But there is an element there of, this is a grind. And the thing that has helped me with that little mental game of, wow, this is for the rest of my life, is just to ask myself, do I want to go back? Because I used to have a more exciting eating life, I guess you could say, but I was obese. I don't want to go back there. So I want to stay where I'm at. So even if that means, having kind of a boring eating plan, one that doesn't really require too much thought, that's okay with me. That's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. So thank you for joining me in this episode. I hope that you found it helpful. I hope that the next time you're sitting there in the middle of the day and in your fasting window's just not quite over and you're tempted to break the fast early, that you'll take these tips and implement some of them. And ultimately, at bottom, if you just sit there and pay attention to what's going through your mind, what are these thoughts that you're thinking, and pay attention to those and learn from them, I think you'll find you really can win the mental game of fasting. Thanks for joining me in this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Frustrating obstacles appear in every weight loss journey. Plateaus, overeating, slow weight loss, emotional eating, and weight gain are a few of the common roadblocks that can cause you to quit before you hit your goal weight. The good news is, all these obstacles can be overcome. Each chapter in my book, Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles: How to Keep Going When Things Get Difficult, will mentally prepare you for the challenges you're likely to face and will give you tips on how to overcome each one. It will help you to focus on the why behind losing weight and on the big picture, so that you can continue to make progress in a sustainable way. It's available as a paperback, ebook, or audiobook on Amazon and at other fine retailers. The link is in the show notes.